Hi, everybody. Ezra Levant here. I'm at the studio by myself. I'm filming with a selfie stick instead of with our fancy cameras because I just had to come in and talk to you about the incredible news that started in the wee hours this morning as Donald Trump sent over 150 aircraft, special forces, and DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency agents into the capital city of Venezuela, Caracas, in the wee hours to arrest and snatch and grab and take to America the dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. It was an incredible operation, complete secrecy, no leaks at all, which is sort of amazing when you think about it. Perfectly timed. There were boots on the ground. Very briefly, we learned. People went in and grabbed Maduro as he was trying to get into a steel safe room in his palace. Anyhow, he was immediately taken by helicopter to the Iwo Jima, which is a naval vessel, and he's on his way now to America, where he will face prosecution for being a drug kingpin, a narco-terrorist under the indictment that was released. In other words, the United States of America did not treat Nicolas Maduro as a legitimate leader of that country, but rather as a narco-terrorist who was just, usurping the office of Venezuela. And that may sound like a dramatic point of view, but it's actually the standard point of view of the European Union, of Canada, and of course the United States, not just the Trump Republicans, but the Joe Biden Democrats as well. Nicolas Maduro was universally regarded as someone who stole the elections. Other than Iran, China, and Russia, he pretty much was a terrorist in everyone's mind, and now he's gone. And the streets of Miami, where there's so many Venezolanos, Venezuelans in exile, just erupted in joy and exhilaration. Not just that, but of course, Venezuela, a source of oil wealth that helped prop up Cuba. Now Cuba has some questions. Cuba, of course, itself had sort of colonized Venezuela. Now Cuba's on the back foot. Russia is sputtering with public statements, but what are they going to do about it? They're already overextended in Ukraine. China doesn't like what's going on. They were trying to invade the Western Hemisphere. I don't know if you ever heard of something called the Monroe Doctrine, but about 2 centuries ago became American foreign policy not to allow any great powers to put down footprints in the West, which is why the whole Cuban Missile Crisis happened, because the Soviets were breaking that convention. Trump is undoing the erosion of the Monroe Doctrine, and in fact, he referred to that doctrine in his press conference today.
Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries, and not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines, and the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal.
I saw some Democrats like Ro Khanna, that's the name of a congressman in California, a Democrat, who said, where was the authorization for this war? What war? The whole operation lasted about 2 hours. They went in, extracted a criminal, and are taking him back to the United States for prosecution. There are no U.S. boots on the ground. It's not an invasion. It's not a war. A lot of people sort of wish it were, because they were predicting, just like they were predicting that Iran would cause World War III if Trump bombed it. They're saying, well, Venezuela would cause World War III. A lot of naysayers on the hard left, like pro-Soviet activists, and on the Tucker Carlson kooky right, who seem to fall in love with Maduro and other tyrants lately. This was a huge success for Trump's America First policy. Think about it. Removing a dictator, removing a narco-terrorist who was not only in a sort of slow motion war against America through drugs, but also through the seizure and expropriation of American oil companies in Venezuela. Billions of dollars stolen from the likes of Exxon, ConocoPhillips, Chevron. Trump in his press conference today said those companies will be back and they will be compensated from oil wealth from Venezuela. So Trump has not landed boots on the ground in a permanent way, but he says that the United States will help run that country. It's not quite sure who will eventually take over, but as far as Trump's concerned, he's not going to let another bad dude take over. The whole thing was so remarkable. Remarkable for its surprise, for its speed, for its audacity. It really was an incredible move to extract just the leader and his wife and be gone, and to do so without loss of life. In the press conference today, they mentioned that one aircraft was hit, but managed to withdraw without crashing, like just utter dominance. And of course, it's totally reshaped South America now. The big bully of South America is gone. The stolen election is undone. You can see other South American leaders, from Bolsonaro in Brazil to Milei in Argentina, cheering what's going on. They're glad that the regional bully is gone, and with it, the people the regional bully allowed in. Russian naval vessels would stop in ports in Venezuela. China was welcome in South America. Believe it or not, Iran and its terrorist agency, Hezbollah, was welcomed into the Western Hemisphere by Nicolas Maduro and before him, Hugo Chavez. So this is going to change everything in South America. It's given enormous hope to the Venezuelan exiles and the Cuban exiles. And it's incredible and very fitting to me that the Secretary of State, their foreign minister, is, of course, Marco Rubio, who used to be the senator from Florida. As the name suggests, he's a Latino. He is, in fact, the son of migrants from Cuba. And so he's very close to the Cuban community. And I think that we're going to see more dominoes fall.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it.
And I think that's one of the huge takeaways from today, is this is the United States showing that the U.S. military is the best in the world, the best equipment, the best trained, the best manpower, the best everything, the best tactics, and that they're able to go right into Caracas and extract the president, the dictator himself. And you've got to be thinking that in Cuba and in Nicaragua, that might happen too. It could. That you got to imagine in Iran, they're thinking very carefully about, could this happen to the Ayatollah? Remember, Iran has had a week of protests on the street that have wobbled that country more than anything. So this is America showing its back. What a contrast to how Joe Biden ran the U.S. military. I think that the symbol of his administration was the helter-skelter evacuation from Afghanistan, just leaving behind billions of dollars worth of military equipment, leaving behind people, just an absolute disaster, which sort of sent a signal to the world that you can get away with anything under Joe Biden. And indeed, many countries took advantage of that. Trump is showing that America's back. I noticed that some left-wing politicians in Canada and the UK are outraged by all this. I see Jeremy Corbyn, the former Labour leader of the UK, appalled by this. I see Don Davies, the NDP member of Parliament in Canada, saying he's outraged by this lack of, what did he call it, the rules-based international order. And I don't know if you ever heard that phrase before, the rules-based international order. But that basically means, hey, we are a weak country that doesn't like when America does things on its own, so we're going to come up with rules that constrain the United States. If you know that story of Gulliver's Travels, he goes to Lilliput, which is a tiny country with tiny people about this big. And there's a scene in Gulliver's Travels, the book, and there's been movies made of it, where he's lying down, he's like a giant, and he's tied down by all these little men with little strings. That's rules-based international order. It's a globalist ideology of putting rules in the way of the United States, like you have to cut back on your use of fossil fuels because the UN global warming bureaucrats say so. You have to be part of the International Criminal Court. So we have a say on how you use your military. Like there's so many things that the rules-based international order does that basically is we don't like how strong America is, so we're going to tell them they can't do things unless they have our permission. It's sort of an NGO way of looking at the world. It's what the World Economic Forum would be built on. Donald Trump has never subscribed to this ideology, the rules-based international order. He has a philosophy called America First, or whatever's in America's interests. And America is a country that has its own checks and balances and its own constitution, and it has treaties with other countries, but it's going to do what's in its own interest, and it's not going to allow a narco-terrorist to continue to wear the skin suit of a legitimate political leader while sending drugs to the United States. And if you don't like it, what are you going to do about it, is basically what he's saying. It's sort of incredible to see all the political losers in the world saying, hey, you can't do that. To which the answer would be, what are you going to do about it? And I see some French politicians saying, we have to take our destiny into our own hands and rebuild our military. Good. Yeah, that's what Trump has been asking you to do for about a decade. Anyway, I'm very excited about this because I think it's not only enormously good for Venezuela, it's great for the Venezuelan and Nicaraguan and Cuban expat communities in Florida. It's great for Trump, again, liberating people without a massive, costly, $1 trillion, 100,000 troop war. Like he just decapitated the bad guy in Venezuela. He didn't do a massive invasion like George W. Bush did in Gulf War I or Gulf War II. No, and it's very exciting, and I'm particularly delighted by the fact that this will have them thinking twice, from Iran to China to anywhere that people want harm on America's interests. It's also got a pack a wallop when Donald Trump says something, he means it. I see that the new president of Mexico, President Sheinbaum is her name, says she's not thrilled with what's going on. And Trump said, look, she's letting the cartels run her country, and I've asked her to fix that. If I was Claudia Sheinbaum, I wouldn't be worried about her being arrested. She's not going to be arrested. She's not a narco-terrorist, but she is absolutely allowing narco-terrorist drug cartels to run much of Mexico. And maybe this will cause her to think a little more clearly about doing what Trump wants to clean up that problem in Mexico, or he will. And by the way, Trump also mentioned Canada's leaky border when it comes to drugs too, I should have you know. Anyhow, I'm pretty excited about how all this is going. Freedom is on the march. America's on the march. American power. The bad guys are on retreat. I have a little bit of hope inside me, not just for Venezuela, but for the whole world. We're sending 2 of our talent down to Miami tonight to go to Little Havana to talk to actual Venezuelan exiles and also Cubans and Nicaraguans too about their feelings about freedom and the ability for America to undo these communist regimes that have abused people for so many decades. Efron and Alexa gets on a plane in just a few moments. She'll be boarding right now, in fact, and Efron Monsanto will be down just about an hour after her. They're coming from different cities. We'll be setting up a special website called VenezuelaIsFree.com, VenezuelaIsFree.com. And you can do 2 things there. Number one, you can follow their news. They'll be landing in a few hours. And they'll have reports from the ground. And if you feel this is important journalism to counter the BS from all the anti-American or rules-based international order types, if you feel this is important, please chip in to help cover our economy class airfare. Between the flights and an economy hotel for the 2 of them, I think the total cost is going to be about $3,000. If you can help us out, please do by going to VenezuelaIsFree.com. Anyways, those are my thoughts from just contemplating what's been going on, looking at the videos, watching the incredible news of today. But we're going to follow up with rebels on the ground in Miami to let you hear straight from the people who are freed. For Rebel News, I'm Ezra Levant.